Well, 300 episodes in the bag. Man, I can't believe we've been doing this for almost 6 years. I think when you look back across the span of where this podcast has taken us, it's beyond what we ever dreamed it would be. Um, we should probably go back and give a little recap on how it started, the adventures that we've been on, where we are today, and where we plan to go. So I hope you hang out with us for the next hour and let Shags and I do a little reminiscing. I'm Brandon Butler.
I'm Nathan Shags McLeod, and welcome to the Driftwood Outdoors podcast. Man, what a ride! We
I know.
5.7 years, 300 weeks. We've only missed one, and that was because I had a stroke. I I could tell Brandon needed a break, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
decided to stroke out for him.
Yeah, you took it a little too serious. We could have come up with another way of taking a break, but dude, I think about all the things that have transpired in both of our lives since we started this. Like where we were then, where we are now. I mean, early episodes were recorded at the cabin, which is, a big part of our friendship was formed going down there and fishing and just kind of running around, deer hunting, having our other friends in. The friends that you made that are longer friends of mine through that experience. And now it doesn't even feel like they're newer friends to you. It just feels like we've all been in this crew for, the long haul. And that's the real beauty of it. When I took some time over the last couple of days and went back through the entire list and was like, man, this and that and holy cow and wow. And,
I took
you
some
know,
notes. I got a page full of
yeah,
notes too.
it's pretty wild to think, how this all came together. So, why don't you start off with how this whole thing started from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, you came to me and said, "Hey, I got an idea with
Mhm.
your radio background and knowing how to do the recordings and edit audio, and with my connections. Speaking of your connections, I think we should do a podcast." And I said, "No, thanks. You're crazy. I know how much work that's going to be, and I don't really want to do it." And I fought you tooth and nail. And now we're here 5.7 years later, looking back on 300 freaking episodes and still going strong, man.
Yeah, and that's one episode per week. We're not doing like three per week or anything like that. So it's quite a stretch. And I guess to take it one step further back was when, I was just a fan. I was like everybody else in the mid Missouri area. I knew Shags from the radio and I woke up with you making me laugh on my drive to work as I went from Fayette to Jefferson City as the Conservation Federation director for 5 years. So, I was burning up about an hour each way. And in the morning, I turned you on nearly every morning. This is before podcasts, so it was CDs or the radio back then for me in the vehicle that I had, and I chose the radio and came to be a fan. And then we found ourselves, as we find ourselves today, fighting for
Still,
conservation, still fighting for conservation. Today, we're encouraging people to speak out on behalf of public lands. Back then, it was captive deer that led to a lot of attacks on the Department of Conservation. And you were the only person that I heard kind of in mainstream media that was taking it serious. And by serious, you wanted to get a bullhorn and storm the Capitol. And I was like, well, damn it, I'm going to storm it right there with you. But I got another idea. And, I reached out, we met up, including Trevor, your co host on the radio, and we created Conservation Day at the Capitol. And I thought it was a smash success. I mean, clearly it was. It's still going on today, 10 years later. And we really complimented each other in that way. And I thought, you're clearly skilled at radio, and I think I can write a pretty good story. And between the two of us, we know a lot of people. Why not join forces? And we did and came out of the gate pretty strong. We were early to the podcast game, and now, a lot of people are podcasting. A lot of people have taken it further than we have with studios and all that stuff. So we've got some changing to do to catch back up at this point, but we've definitely made the most of our time getting to know people, getting to interview some heroes, going through some of life's hard times, going through some of the best times. Just what a ride it's been, getting to
Yeah,
know each other's friends and families. It's been pretty awesome.
you definitely made it easy because you always got something to say. There's never a dull or quiet moment when Brandon Butler's around.
Oh, dude,
I
that's funny because I got a message on an email today, actually, from a newspaper reader that said, great to see you coming out of your political corner and standing up for this fight. And I was like, really? Like, if I, I guess I've mellowed a little bit. I'm letting some people down. They're happy to see me just, saying something about public land. So,
I
I
still
don't know.
can't wrap my head around that. What Senator Mike Lee is doing, or I mean, he must have already gotten paid or he's made some deals because he is fighting hard to sell off these lands, and them coming back and saying, dude, you can't do that. Now he's the fight has just begun. He said, like, I don't I don't care who you stand politically with, right, left, center, up, down. I mean, it's our public lands. How someone's not going to run against him saying, this guy's trying to sabotage everything we're doing or everything that you love. That I, it gets to the point where I keep reading about it and looking at it and keeping up, and I just keep shaking my head and going, how is this one? How's this guy ever going to get elected again? But again, now you're going to get me all into politics, and we're supposed to be reminiscing about 300 episodes. But that's part of my frustration too, is that it's party over anything else. Like you can't be like, oh no, not a Democrat. Oh no, not a Republican. It's like, no, it's our public lands, and he shouldn't be selling them. And how can we even think this? Like, not 1 acre. Like, do not let him have it.
Right. I mean, to any of us that aren't billionaires or millionaires, this is just simple math. Like, you can't afford to buy this land. That's already yours. You stand to gain nothing as a citizen of this country to see that land go away. There is nothing in this for you. Now, I truly believe that it's not partisan in the sense of this issue, because some of the biggest names standing up for us are Ryan Zinke, the Republican congressman from Montana, that's a former Secretary of Interior, the Montana senators. I mean, that's how weaselly some politicians are. Some politicians are great people. Some of them are scumbags. And the scumbags are the ones that give a bad name to the good people that stand up to serve. And he even cut Montana out of the deal because he knew if he put Montana into the deal, it would be over before it even began. So he cut Montana out of the deal, thinking that would help him push this through. But to your point, of course he has debts to pay. Like, these guys raise millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars over a career running for the US Senate. I mean, they put 1.5 billion into Kamala Harris's campaign and she lost. I mean, politics has so unfortunately become a money game.
But who's going to
And
vote for him? Why would you vote for him after this?
I,
That's
I have
that's
I
my
have no
biggest
idea.
question of, like,
I have
Utah. What
I
are
have
you even thinking?
some billionaire that wants this land, that gave him money, will give him more money to convince people to vote for him because he did X, Y, or Z that they can try to spend that's good for him. But yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Like, if you're an average citizen, like, you're the craziest gun nut out there, this is where you shoot your guns. If you're the craziest liberal butterfly person out there, like, this is where you hike and see your butterflies. And they're trying to take it away. He's trying to pay political debts with the land that you own. He's taking your asset and paying back the people that sprung for him to be elected to office. And you're an absolute fool if you think there's anything in this for you to gain. Now, the real problem is, though, this isn't a standalone bill. That's the thing about legislation that the average citizen probably doesn't understand.
There's so
This
many
is
things on it.
so many good things. This is the big, beautiful bill, which has a lot of good things in it. Tax cuts. I mean, some of them are really good tax cuts. Some of them you might not agree with. we saw this when we were early in our fights together with Governor Nixon and the captive deer issue. I mean, that was an omnibus bill that had a lot of things all wrapped up in it, and they threw as many good things in there as they could. When he vetoed that legislation back in 2014, he had to veto scholarships for dairy farm kids and like really good things that he wanted to pass. And if anybody should be mad at Mike Lee, it should be his counterparts who are trying to pass good legislation, and he just threw a big shit bomb on everything that they're trying to get done. So that's who should put Mikey in the corner and tell him to go sit down and shut up, are the other senators that are trying to get this through. So I will say that I saw Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. They're tracking their legislative action center. They had over 35,000 interactions yesterday.
Yeah, I saw
I
that too.
I called both offices today. You know, I know Senator Schmidt. I have a lot of respect for him. I like him a lot. I don't know Senator Hawley as much, but you know, Senator Schmidt and I are on a first name basis. And I called his office and got. We were experiencing a high volume of calls. Like, so I don't know if they just turned it off or if I just it's so flooded right now that you can't get through. But I left like very positive, or at least very polite messages for both of them, explaining that, I'm a very concerned citizen with a syndicated newspaper column and a podcast that collectively reaches tens of thousands of people per week. And my intention is to let people know how this goes down. And I hope that matters to you because this matters to me. This is the hill that I will die on.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we're recording this like on June 26th, like in the height of it. And I just saw the President Trump saying he wanted it done by the 4th of July. So they're going to start getting a lot of pressure to start passing this thing. So I don't know if this comes out, if this is all for naught and we've lost our public lands, or we can be rejoicing and that it got pulled from the bill completely and we're moving away from it for the moment, and hopefully old Senator Mike Lee doesn't get elected again. Hopefully Utah will learn their lesson. And I hate the the spin on it and the disguise of like, no, we're helping lower income families, the families that don't have housing. This is what it's going to
Right.
be for. It's like,
Right.
get out of here.
Yeah.
We have plenty of housing available. It's just
Have you-
the and it's going to be BLM land. Is suddenly
right.
you're gonna pop up some homes out in the middle of nowhere. It's
Dude, my first thought on that, I immediately went to "It's a Wonderful Life," and like old man Potter is trying to build like Potter's Field out there in the desert for low income people to live in. It's like they want us to believe that these are going to be like nice homes, and the American dream is going to transpire, and people that can't afford housing are now going to have houses. I got an idea. Let's go into all the destroyed urban zones that we've already covered in concrete that are now like sitting vacant because we're not pouring any resources into those, like parts of St. Louis, South Chicago, Gary, Indiana, where I spent my childhood. I know what decimation looks like because I worked there all of my youth. Let's go in there and revitalize those areas. Then your problem is solved. You have low income housing opportunities if you can make those environments safe enough and healthy enough for anyone to live in instead of paving over more of our land. And with President Trump on this, I don't have much faith. I'm hoping Don Jr. and Eric, who appreciate a lot of the things that we appreciate, tell the old man like, "Hey, Dad, it's time to tell Mike Lee here to pull this out of the bill, or you're gonna be pretty upset with them." Because let's face it, Donald Trump is a New York City developer. Like developing real estate is what he wants to do. So it makes sense that he's not completely opposed to this. Donald Trump hasn't been out deer hunting on BLM lands before, but his sons have.
have they
So
though, or are they behind? Like, aren't they those massive ranches? That's another.
mm, I don't know. I mean, I've
They're
talked to Don
probably.
Jr. before. I've been with him at the SHOT Show and had conversations with him. And
Well, yeah, I know he's
sure,
an avid hunter.
they can afford to hunt anywhere in the world, but I think they're serious hunters. I mean, of course, they're in them fancy ranches and stuff. And is he out there slumming with the rest of us on a piece of desert in Utah? I don't know. But would he? Like, would he if the right people invited him? At least he understands the value of it intrinsically.
Yeah.
So I'll
I
give
guess
him credit there.
the one perk or the one highlight from all this is it's actually uniting everyone. I
Yeah,
enjoyed seeing a sign that says, what did it say? It said rednecks and hippies unite, hashtag
that's so
not one
awesome.
acre. And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
in a world where we're all so divided, we've come
Yes.
together because of douchebag Senator Mike Lee trying to sell off our public lands. And
And
I hope
man,
there's been
is
enough
he.
voices.
Oh, yeah, man. I got nothing for that guy. So we say all this to prove to you that the passion is still there after 300 episodes. This is how we came together. This was an impromptu look into why this podcast began, why we still do it. But I think it'd be cool, man, to go back and reminisce a little bit. Um, going through the early podcasts, I think for me, a moment that I knew I was going to really enjoy this was in episode 3 when we got together with Steve Schnarr and Jeff Boot Barrow from Missouri River Relief.
Yes.
We met up at old Cooper's Landing in Columbia, Missouri, just south of town there, and we got on a boat and we went up the Missouri River and we killed the engine and we were just floating down the river with headsets on and we started talking about the beauty and kind of the undervalued natural aspects of the Missouri River. And when we were doing that, I was like, this is a very new way of communicating the outdoors and I think it's going to be a fun run.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun, like adventure on site podcasts, everything
Mhm.
from gravel bars to fishing trips to just floats down the Missouri River. Those are always some of my favorites. And even going down in the drift boat with Brian Sloss down the 11 point. And I remember you getting so frustrated with me because I only said two things. It was either fish on or God dang it, because I missed one.
Yeah.
But I was just so caught up, and that's like when I was still like I wasn't even fly curious. I was kind of anti fly fishing. I didn't really want to do it, so I was really focused on just not hooking anyone and then trying to get the hang of it. So it was pretty entertaining afterwards of you going, "Hey, we're not going to do this again if you don't start talking on these float
Yeah,
trips."
yeah. So that's right, man. Episode 3, I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then on episode 5, I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, okay, can't put a fly rod in or can't put a rod in his hand and a headset on his head at the same time. So we learn as we go. We learn as we go. But man, I talked to Savannah at work. I mean, even that to show like how our lives have changed. I'm now running a service dog organization that I never saw coming, and then I was able to hire your fiance, which for a little bit longer we can call her the forever fiance. You're now encroaching on bear season with your wedding coming up in October, and I mean, geez, I get when I started this podcast, or when we started this podcast, I was married. Now I have a girlfriend, and that girlfriend has a bear tag this year. So, and she's like, "Oh man, Shags and Savannah's wedding is on the second weekend of the season."
She
I
didn't
was like,
get that zone because I mean we're close to one of the zones.
she's in the good zone. She's in zone 1. And I just told her, "Don't worry, we'll have it done by then."
But that
So,
zone one's closer to like the Branson, Ozark, Springfield area, right?
yeah, yeah. So, I'm debating on whether or not to call Matt Miles, who photographs bears, and be like, come on, man. Like, you're a conservationist. This is part of the game. Like, tell us where one's hiding. At least put us in the right area. So, and that is where the majority of the bears have come from. They increased the number this year because it's so hard to get one. Last year was the most ever got, and it was 15 out of 400 tags issued. So this isn't easy by any means. There's no baiting, there's no dogs. You basically just have to be in the right place at the right time. So we'll be doing some research, and I saw old Charlie Warmack from HMI Fireplaces. His daughter got one too. So pretty cool, man, that women are out there doing this and excited about it. And, Missouri has come a long way as far
Yeah.
as conservation with elk and bears and all that.
Well, I mean, it
So,
brings us back to the podcast too of having, well, Clay Newcomb, Mr. Bear Grease himself on the podcast talking about Missouri bear hunting and hunting for him down in Arkansas and the Ozark area as well. And this was before Meat Eater
yeah.
Clay Newcomb. This was
Yeah.
just
This was
Bear
before
Magazine.
Yeah, this was before GQ Clay. That's like he looks like he has a stylist now. Like we went back and we were watching some stuff on Clay the other day, and he looked like a mountain man, and now he looks like he stepped out of GQ magazine. Like those Los Angeles hairstylists must have got a hold of him. But yeah, what a special event that was. I mean, Clay came up to the cabin. We fried crappie in the cabin in bear grease that Clay brought. Hal Herring was there. So, how cool is that? Like, those are our friends, is Hal Herring and Clay Newcomb frying crappie. And then we took them out fishing with Billy Smith on the Current River for smallmouth in the middle of winter. Um, those kind of experiences wouldn't have happened if we hadn't started doing this.
No, that's so true, and that was one of my notes that I made of the my biggest takeaway from really starting this is all the friends I've made and the people that I just interviewed and the fishing guides that are like now my good buddies and how cool that's been. And even to the point of Mark Van Patten, I think that was episode 10. That still ranks up
Hmm.
there as one of my favorites of hearing him tell his story from holding his best friend when he was 12 years old, dying in his arms in the streets of Oakland, to saying, I got to get out of here and hitchhiking, not telling his parents or anything, just his mom, just hitchhiking out of Oakland because he knew he had some grandparents in Missouri. And regardless of what religion or spirits you believe in, for a 12-year-old to stick out his thumb twice and find his grandparents from Oakland to just Missouri and not knowing what town they lived in, not even knowing their real names. It was more of a nickname he had heard, is
Hmm.
pretty wild and pretty incredible for that to pan out the way it did. And have him tell his story about how fly fishing pretty much saved his life. And then not even to mention his Woodstock story, which is just mind boggling as well, too, driving across the country at 14 sitting on milk crates in a car you bought because you cut some trees down and sold the lumber just because you saw a pretty girl at a
All because of
record
a girl.
store
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is just nuts to me.
It is. And yeah, the friends that we've made along the way, like Adam Voigt. And the circle there is that Adam dated Mark's daughter for 4 years through high school. And Adam and I just got back from the Boundary Waters. And while we were up there, Adam laid it out to me, his vision for doing a Mark Van Patten documentary, the way I did the Spence Turner documentary. So we're talking about that now, and definitely would be Adam's vision and Adam's project. But I hope to jump in and help him make that a reality, because that's a story that it just should be told,
Yeah,
man. Like, it's so good.
it's
So yeah,
incredible. And
yeah,
I mean,
Mark
even,
and
yeah, even his books, and I'm looking forward to the one he's writing now. I mean, he's still, well, I think it was the most interesting fly fisherman or something was the title of it, and it still is. He is one of the most interesting people that I've got to meet, and it's so cool now that I can say that he's a friend. Like he's invited to our wedding, and he said he was going to go, and just one of the nicest human beings ever.
what's so cool about these podcasts, ours and everybody else's, is how timeless they are. So now we've got those words captured forever, unless the internet crashes. Um, But even then, I think we got backup files. You know what I mean? So like, he's battled cancer, he's in his 70s. None of us are going to be here forever. There's going to be a day when that treasure of a man is no longer with us, but because we took the time to sit down with him and record him, his family can go back, his fans can go back. Hopefully 100 years from now, that living history will be listened to about an area we care about by a man we care about. And I think that's really special,
Yeah,
and I did, before we did this podcast, I was doing the Conservation Federation podcast, and a number of those people have passed away, and their families, Glenn Chambers and John Lewis, and I know their families treasure those recorded words because they can go back and hear those stories and share those stories with members of their family that are unborn at this time.
Well, and that's another nice thing too, because I mean, it's no secret that I lost my dad this year, and we had the pleasure, another friend that we made, Chris Nelson with Tandem Fly Outfitters, and doing all the podcasts with him, and then being able to take my dad and my nephew Cooper white bass fishing, and that was such a special moment. And I remember pulling Chris aside afterwards, just thanking him so much because I was like, I'm not sure how many of these trips I'm going to get with my dad, and and I think my dad was being a little grouchy. He was starting
No,
he,
not
I
Larry.
know, right? And he was starting to struggle at that time getting around. That was kind of the
Yeah.
beginning of him starting to get sick, and he struggled a little bit. And he was never much of, like, he called him trash fish because, as a salmon, steelhead, he's a big salmon guy. That was his thing. But salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, that he wasn't that interested in white bass. But we got out there and we got on that school when they were feeding in the shallows, and it was like every cast. And anybody who's ever done that knows they hammer it, they hit it full blast, and them little white bass fight their asses off. And I caught a giggle out of him that I don't think I ever heard my whole life, that he was having so much fun catching those bass. And it was such a cool experience to be able to share it with him, and even little Cooper at the time just saying, "Fish on, boys." And then us being able to record a podcast afterwards with him and being able to tell the story. And now I can always go back and listen to that as well. So it means, I mean, this podcast has been through a lot of stuff for
Oh
both of us,
man.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So much stuff. I mean, to stay like on that train of people that matter to us, Bobby Whitehead is very special to me. I always say some people, well, everyone has a father, and some people have a godfather, but I don't know anybody else that has a Bob father. So, that guy holds a special place in my heart. He's been a life mentor, a business mentor, a very close personal friend, and yeah, I've got some of his stories recorded for the rest of my life now too, and beyond. So it is really cool. To stay in the vein of your family, it was episode 115 when we went out to Oregon and hunted with Uncle Steve, and that started the whole Uncle Steve saga. And what's he
Wait,
been to Missouri 4 times now?
yeah.
And we were talking quite a bit through your father's end of life, and I know how much that weighed on him, and how hard that's got to be for him to have now lost both of his brothers, and to be the last man standing, if you will, and for him to ask me like, look, I know I got my deer last year, but I really enjoy that. And I'm like, Steve, dude, every year for the rest of your life. Just as much time as you want to spend here. Please come back. And like the blending of these relationships has been really, really special. So like your uncle wanting to come back and stay with us and hunt with us and spend time with us and forgiving me for shooting his buck and all of that, it's
I'm glad you're finally admitting that. That's
that's
big of
bullshit.
you.
I will say this, man. I will say this. In the last few days, I'm staring down two tuitions at Mizzou this year, and um, that's a lot of money for anybody. Maybe not for Senator Mike Lee, cocksucker, and
Why do you
but
think he's trying to sell off our public lands?
so like I'm trying to think like what can I do, and because of our great friend Steve Jones, I've got a wonderful place to hunt where your uncle killed his buck, and that's where I spend my time hunting now. So I'm not hunting my own back 20 acres. And I thought, well, if I could get X amount of dollars for it, maybe I'll sell half of my land. That would more than put both of my girls through school. Um, so I actually got on X and drew out like what would 20 acres look like if I sold that. And that was Monday night, and Tuesday morning I got up and let the dogs out at 5:45 in the morning, I have never seen a gobbler on the front half of my property. I walked out there. The biggest buck I have seen on my property was standing 200 yards behind my barn with two gobblers standing right in front of him. And I thought, if that's not a sign from God to not sell my land, I don't know what is. So if anybody needs a kidney, that's plan B. So I'm not selling any of my land. I'll sell a kidney. Um,
Well, have you had any
but
bites? I saw that you put the trailer and the motorcycle up for sale.
no, no bites, no bites on either one of them. So, and they're both priced far below, what the blue book is or what they're worth. And um, I don't know. The motorcycle I don't really want anymore just because of safety issues. I guess I'm getting old, and it's really because of deer. Like I love riding, but man, when I'm riding this time of year, when everything's green and the cornfields go like right to the edge of the road and you can't see into the woods, like I just don't want to smoke a deer on my motorcycle. And where I live, that's the number one concern. I also think where I live is why nobody is biting because it would be an hour drive for anybody to come take a look at either one of them. But I don't really want to sell the camper. I'm just trying to figure it out. This
Yeah.
nonprofit life isn't I'm not the guy affording Mike Lee the luxuries that he has. So
Oh, when I was going through trying to come up with like, oh, what should we talk about on this podcast? There was one memory I had of just how pissed I got at you early on doing this podcast, and it was when we first sat down with Bill Cooper in his office back when you were still enjoying the bourbon, and I
the
remember
clinking
you
ice cubes.
you just crunching the ice cubes while you had a really good bourbon buzz, and then you were just sucking on cubes and crunching them, and me being like the radio audio guy having the headphones on and just hearing crack crack. I was like, you're killing me here, Smalls, you're killing
Yeah,
me.
no. No, man, like I'm sure if we went back through all of these podcasts, we could both find things that we're embarrassed of,
Oh yeah,
like how much we've both changed in this 6 years. I mean,
we've
what is it?
matured.
Yeah, 40 is the new 30. Like we weren't late. We're just modern. We're just modern, um I still speak about it with some carefulness because when you say like, "Oh, I'm sober now," people are like, "Oh yeah, did somebody find you naked in a ditch like Randy Travis?" And like, "No, I just made a life change and a really really good one." And if you go back to those early podcasts, most of them did involve drinking. Like we were drinking, our guests were drinking, like we fancied ourselves as like bourbon connoisseurs.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
mean Mark Van Patten brought over homemade moonshine, and we were drinking
yeah,
moonshine and smoking cigars.
that's right.
Now,
And
yeah,
and
you're booze free. I'm nicotine free. Like it's
yeah, you were smoking heaters like they were going out of style. And yeah, I'm 100% sober for over 2 years, and that's just hard to believe. And that happened, the whole cabin situation. I mean, what a crazy story that was, dude. Like not only the cabin like getting burned, if that's not crazy enough, like the cleanup that we did and being holed up in a church with a militia and people driving into the parking lot after us and our one like military friend slash SWAT team member that was there being like, we got to go. Like
yeah, this
if
is
we
not a
st-
safe place for
this
us.
we yeah we got to go. And then we think we're safe, but then there turns out to be a guy on the inside that isn't right, and like we have to deal with
Unrelated. That that
unrelated
that poor guy just had
unrelated.
some mental health issues because we had people that
Yeah,
listen to the podcast just show up to help,
right.
which was really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, just dude, we've been through some nuttiness for sure. But yeah, like I think you were still living in your apartment. Like when we first met, dude, you had an apartment. Like I was scared to use the bathroom in. You had a truck that only had three wheels. Like one was sitting on a cinder block. You had a cat. Uh and now you own two homes, two trucks. You wear shirts that have sleeves on them. Like,
Sometimes.
I asked Savannah the other day, did you ever think he'd be in the governor's office conducting interviews? And she's like, I did not. I did not. So, I mean, yeah, we've come a long way, man. And
Yeah,
the the
we certainly have.
the cool thing is, like I'm 46, you're 47, like we're probably not going to make it to 100, but we could. And I mean, maybe we're only halfway through life. We're probably a little more than halfway through life, but we've got some really good years ahead of us still too. And I think that's what's special is we both realize that um, we're not spoiled people. Neither one of us grew up that way. We've worked our asses off, and we're in a good place. And we've got incredible friends. This podcast has brought a lot of those people to us. You mentioned Chris Nelson. I mean, I think about Billy Smith and these just really, really good people. Eric Call, like I'm so proud to have friends like Eric Call in my life now, and that wouldn't have happened without this podcast. So yeah, dude, it's amazing what we've been able to do.
Well, I
And
mean, shout out Damon Spurgeon. I mean, he's become one of my best
yeah,
friends too, and that was just all through the podcast. I mean, we're gonna meet up this weekend and try to do a little fishing together too. So, I mean, he lets me come down there and stay, and he introduced me to one of his buddies, John Rapp, that lets me hunt on his property. And so, I mean, it's this podcast has really been pretty special on a bunch of different levels for sure.
so I have these VHS tapes from the late 80s, like 1988, 1989, that my grandpa and I made watching Bill Dance and Al Lindner and Babe Winkleman and these guys on TV before cable existed, or at least before my family had cable. I was the remote control. So every time a commercial came, I had to run up and press stop, wait for it to come back on, press record again on this like newfangled VHS technology. And the other day I put one of those tapes in and I'm watching a Bill Dance episode followed by an Al Lindner episode from 1989. And now I can say, like, oh, yeah, I know both of those guys. They've both been on the podcast. Like, dude, that's just crazy to think
Yeah.
about. Like, if I could go back and tell, like, 10-year-old me that someday you'll sit down and talk to those guys for a couple hours and have a lot of commonalities with them, um, that's mind blowing.
I would have lost my mind. And I mean, honestly, I'm glad it was over the phone because I was just shaken, like just trying to talk to Bill Dance. I mean, he was my childhood hero. Like, because now bass fishing's big all over, but in the Pacific Northwest, where you got up and watched TNN or yeah TNN Saturday morning or Sunday morning for the Bill Dance episode, that me and my buddy were going and trying to find weird bass lures and fishing all the ditches, and everyone was making fun of us because we're surrounded by, like I said earlier, salmon and steelhead and native cutthroat trout, sea run cutthroat. I mean, you were just surrounded by salmonoids, but I was chasing them ditch pickles, just trying to be Bill Dance and then get to visit with him and hear him tell his stories of being Terry Bradshaw's best man at the
Yeah.
wedding and that giant fiasco. I mean, that was just, and he's so full of stories, and to hear the origin of all the bloopers, which made
Oh, yeah.
him even more popular.
And for him to treat us like just old buddies,
Yeah,
like when your heroes turn out to be good people like that, I think that's what makes it super special. And the same thing with Al Lindner, and I've always heard that Al Lindner was a salt of the earth human being, and he proved it to be true. And I still pray that I get an opportunity to go up to Brainerd, Minnesota, and fish with him. I mean, that would be the absolute best for me. Is just to be in the boat with Al Lindner and be like, man, thank you for doing what you did, because even though I didn't know it at the time, you were inspiring me to have this life and to be, as fortunate as I am. Like if those guys hadn't paved the way of outdoor communication, and if my grandpa hadn't, subscribed to every magazine that there was and watched all these TV shows, like we probably wouldn't be doing this. So I know I wouldn't be, it's amazing what we've done. Um, Politically speaking too, like we've had three directors of the Department of Conservation on here. We're both close personal friends with our current director, Jason Sumners. And, the world is run by people who show up. And you and I, we show up for conservation. Like we not only share other people's voices, but when it's time to be at the Capitol, we go. When it's time to make calls, we call. And it's so neat to me that we know these people and we're able to view them as just friends and appreciate them for the professional work they do, but to know them on a personal level, it makes it so much easier to fight for what we fight for when you know that the people that are at the top have their heart in it just like we do. And from Jerry Presley, who, was around when they took school buses out to see a deer track, to Jason Sumners, who's desperate for people to kill more deer because the population is too high and the issues we're facing with disease. And so, like, look at the shift from Jerry Presley to Jason Sumners, and you and I have been able to meet and know a lot of the people through those years. It's remarkable.
It really is. And it I'm trying not to go on another rant either, but it's just one of the super frustrating things where you sit here and you talk to these people like the Presleys that like, oh yeah, it was a big deal if you saw a deer track. We got out of school to go see deer tracks. Like no one believed it. And now when you see social media and all these comment threads of people just talking about how Missouri is just mismanaged and there aren't enough deer, there's still the way they're being handled. I'm like, dude, in one generation, one person's life, we went from no deer to now you complaining about too many deer or not enough deer or what is how I just want to shake the state sometimes. Just
Here,
shake some sense into them and be like,
I'll,
what are we
I'll
doing?
Yeah, man. I'll read you a reporter from Moberly, Missouri, reached out to me for some quotes about CWD. So just today, this is what I sent back, and I had no intention of sharing this, but and I don't know what she'll use or what she won't use. Um, but I said, and I gave her four different quotes. I said, while serving as the executive director of the Conservation Federation of Missouri from 2014 to 2019, I was very involved with the initial research, planning, and action set forth as the result of chronic wasting disease being discovered in Missouri. For over 10 years now, I've closely monitored the spread of this horrible disease through our state and across the country. Even more so, I have monitored public sentiment over MDC's efforts to combat CWD and slow the spread. The amount of misinformation and plain vitriol being shared by a growing number of hunters today is alarming and horribly disappointing. So that was quote one. Number two, as someone who has worked professionally in conservation for over 20 years and as a serious sportsman who has successfully hunted in 37 states and multiple countries, one thing I know for sure is we are incredibly blessed in Missouri to have our system, which is referred to as the Missouri model of conservation. There are 49 other states who look to Missouri as the leader of conservation in our country. Number three, MDC is unfortunately suffering from their own success. While other states, like Wisconsin, are now living with CWD positive rates pushing over 40% in the worst prevalence counties, Missouri has yet to see greater than 1% prevalence rate in any county. In those worst Wisconsin counties, the entire age class of the deer herd is shifted younger because deer cannot live long enough to reach maturity. MDC's efforts are keeping prevalence rates low by reducing deer numbers in the immediate areas where a CWD positive is discovered. Number four, deer hunting has changed so dramatically in the 35 years I've been chasing whitetails. We used to go to the woods with the hope of tagging a buck. Today, deer hunters may monitor a specific buck for years with cellular cameras. They name deer and develop a false sense of ownership over them, thus throwing out the entire premise of the North American model of wildlife conservation, which emphasizes all wildlife belongs to the public, not individuals. Deer hunting used to be about tradition, food, family, and friends. Today, it has sadly become more about ego, antler inches, and Instagram likes. I can go on and on. Feel free to call me if you'd like to talk. So, I mean, to
Well,
me,
I did
it's
notice
his
that you're poking the bear on the old Dr. Deer Facebook post
dude.
too.
We used to cuss a lot more on this podcast, and we don't do that very much anymore. But fuck that guy, you know. Um, what I said to him today was go away. Like, you claim that Gordon Whittington is your closest friend. Good. Take an example from that man's class and go enjoy your retirement. You've done enough damage. And I deleted a part of it. I am getting a little more couth. I was starting to write like your pathetic attempt at remaining relevant is tarnishing any legacy that you may have ever had. And I don't know what's wrong with that guy, but his determination to disprove CWD as a problem, it's an astonishment on what he accomplished as a deer biologist. So at this point, he reminds me of Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. Like, he's just mad at everything. He doesn't matter anymore. He fucked up the whole state of Wisconsin, and now he's dug in with these like mouth breathers that look at him as some kind of hero for running deer hunting down to nothing. He takes credit for creating the disaster that, Antler Inches has become. He's like, we at North American Whitetail Magazine are responsible for this disaster. It's like, okay, man, like, good on you for that. Like, good on you for admitting that. Now why can't you say, your stance on CWD has been a disaster as well, and now you're trying to lead people over the cliff? Just go sit in a recliner. You're 80 years old. Like, I don't care that you don't respect today's biologists because they didn't walk uphill in the snow both ways to and from school and all the other bullshit people your age say. Just go away, man. Go away. So,
Yeah, I got a couple of notifications of saying so and so tagged you or so and so tagged you on the Driftwood page. And I was like, who's tagging us? And then I clicked on it. I was like, oh, Brandon's out here stirring the pot online again.
what's cool though, dude? I didn't even go back once to look at it. Like, I've gotten that's part of the evolution that we've experienced. Like,
Yeah.
that's what Joe Rogan says, that post and walk away. And I can do that now. Thanks to a couple of years of counseling, I have learned to be a gray rock. So, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So,
It's pretty wild.
yeah, and if it wasn't for, I mean, we hear it like other people aren't standing up for the department, and we do it with no reservations. We do it with no
No, we're
nothing. we
bootlickers.
don't gain we don't gain anything from it. Like, we're not on the financial take. We're not making millions off CWD. I mean, we don't make shit. So there's that, and
Apparently, you need to
uh
go back and read the comments because we're lining our pockets and we're nothing but
yeah,
bootlickers that are on the pay grade and all that stuff.
that's right. We are for sure. That's why I'm trying to sell all my shit to pay for college. So, man, like, the world is full of stupid people. Like, it just is. And they're getting dumber and dumber. Like, the documentary Idiocracy continues to expose like where we're headed and why we're headed there. It's hard to accept. It's really, really hard to accept. Those same people, though, are cheering on Mike Lee. Those same people that most of them, don't have any kind of hope for a good future. They just want to see everything burn. They've accomplished nothing in their life. They're not going to accomplish anything. They're mad, and Facebook finally gave them a voice, and they scream in some echo chamber where 10 other people who are as dumb as they are, repeat the same things back to each other, and now they feel heard. So good for them, but they don't get a free pass. Like, there are a few of us out there dumb enough to call you out. They already burned my house down, like, and here I am still standing here saying fuck you, like, so what are you gonna do?
Oh man, that's too funny. I saw one comment. Okay, now, see, we're gonna get off. We're supposed to be highlighting of all the episodes, but to that point, I saw one comment going, "Well, what's the big deal if he wants to sell the lands when they're getting mismanaged And I think it was here in Missouri. It was a Missouri guy talking about MDC shooting all the deer. Like, why not sell it off because it can't be managed correctly? So why even have it? And I was like, my God, man. Yeah,
Well,
you're
see,
right. Because a China company that comes in and buys it is really going to care that about the
yeah,
deer, or going to let you even on the land.
that's the point. Like, is it going to be so much better for you when you're just outside the fence looking in? Like, you can't even go on it then. Like, that'll make you happier. You being unable to step foot on it. So maybe some billionaire has it now, and they can hunt it on land that you used to have access to. And now you can't go there, but you're going to be happier about that. Like, now that you're locked out, you'll be happier. Like, you can take the thing with these people, man, is like you can just take the facts. You can be like, okay, deer hunters killed 274,830 deer last year. MDC culled 4,500. Like, here's the facts. And they'll be like, bullshit. like, like
They're
they
lining their
killed all
pockets.
they killed all the deer. They killed all the deer. No, no, they didn't. They killed 0.7%. Not even 1% of the number of deer that were killed by hunters. 0.7. And somehow you continue to say they're killing all the deer. Like, and most of these people that are saying this shit probably don't even deer hunt. They probably, they want to talk about mismanaged lands. They probably never seen one of those lands. They've certainly not been out to the BLM lands of Utah. They don't know what the West is like. Again, they're just shitbags. Like, that's all. That's what they are. You know.
Oh, all right. Let's get back to recapping 5.7 years and
Yeah.
300 episodes.
Someone who's not a shitbag, someone who's an absolute American hero is Will Jimeno. And Will Jimeno is our friend, a guy who I've known for quite a few years that was actually pulled from the rubble of the World Trade Center after rushing in to try to save people's lives. And having him like make my dream of a Sopranos like tour come true. I had a piece of pizza in the pizzeria where they hang out, where Beansy was. Uh, we stood outside the Bada Bing. I went to the booth where they shot the final scene and tried to like do my best pose to recreate it. But I get to do all that cool stuff with this guy who, I mean, he's a true American hero. You can't argue that. No one can argue that. And, the movie World Trade explains his story. He was flying around the world with Oliver Stone on a jet after that movie came out. And Nicolas Cage, your favorite actor, was in the movie. He knows Nicolas Cage. Michael Pena played him. So for a guy like that who went through, you know, an unimaginable situation where he's penned down under the rubble and fireballs are dropping around him and he's preparing to die, crossing his hands like this so his wife will know that he was saying I love you as he, gets hit by a fireball in the World Trade Center rubble and thankfully, by the grace of God, he lived and now he's an advocate for not only hunting but for just freedom for America. And I just love that guy, man. I just love him, and I'm so thankful that I've gotten to know him. And this podcast has really been a big part of the reason why that friendship exists and has moved forward.
Oh,
So
just the opportunity to get him to hear his story once as like a public speaker was so inspiring. And like you left there just ready to run through walls, like whatever it took.
yeah,
Whatever you say, let's go do it. Like, I'm going to be a better person. Let's do this. And it really, I've learned a lot from him and just hearing him talk. And I do believe I am a better person because of meeting him and trying to take some of the things he had said to heart, and then have an opportunity to not only record the podcast, but get to hang out with them a little bit up at Rudy's property
Yeah.
and get to hang and record the podcast and hang out a little bit longer. And then you guys went hunting the next morning. But I mean, that was a real special opportunity. It was really cool.
We're gonna hunt together this fall at Mr. James's house. Mr. James is the founder of Bowhunter Magazine. He's been on the podcast too, real early. I did that at his house. And I mean I think MR's gotta be pushing 90 now. And another like just absolute stalwart of conservation and what he's done in his career, really helped modernize archery hunting. Um, Oh man, with that, a guy we didn't get on the podcast that we should have, Dick Wood. We just lost Dick Wood. Amazing, wonderful man. I'm sad that we didn't get him on the podcast. But yeah, with Will, I mean, look Will Jimeno in the face, Mike Lee, and tell him that you're gonna sell his public lands. This guy who rushed into the World Trade Center to save strangers, but yet his fellow Americans, and tell him that you're gonna sell his lands, that he can't go on those lands anymore. You know, do that.
Maybe that's what we need. We need to send Will out there to Utah to do a little speaking tour across that state.
I don't know. But, talking about America, this podcast has been international. I've recorded podcasts from Chihuahua, Mexico, where I had the opportunity to finish my world slam of turkeys, like all bootlickers do. And I got to hunt with Manuel and Carlos Enriquez at El Jacon down in Chihuahua. And they talk about like travel being the cure for all ignorance. And you hear people talking about Mexico and what's going on. And don't get me wrong, I'm 100% against like the illegal invasion of our southern border, but at the same time it's understandable for those people to want to come to our country when you get down there and see that. I hope we have a path to citizenship that's easier and better in the future. Not condoning anybody coming across illegally. I don't want that. But you go down there and you see the conditions in which some of these people live. And if your heart doesn't open up a little bit more to them and their desire to be part of this American dream, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Um,
Yeah.
that was an amazing trip. Same thing in Africa. We did multiple podcasts from Africa when my cousin and I and our good buddy Josh Lane went down there, and Josh is another guy that we've come to know through this, and we've gotten to know his children and watched them grow up, and Walker and Texas Ranger, and um, Walker just graduated high school, and I had to send him a card, and then Josh turned around and sent my kid a card, and we're swapping checks, but like that's how close we've become as friends, and going to Africa and experiencing the beauty of that country and like just the craziness of the animals over there. But again, coming home and wanting to kiss the ground of this country and feeling so thankful to be an American and to have the freedoms and the opportunities we have. There are no public lands in South Africa. There are a lot of animals inside of high fences and you can go shoot them, but it is not the same as stalking a moose in the national forests of northwest Montana, or an elk in the mountains of Utah, or a pronghorn on the BLM lands of Wyoming. Like there's nothing in Mexico like that. There is nothing in Africa like that. It's really the US and Canada that has that. I've been to Iceland where there are no mammals. Um, it's just so amazing what we have that we had our forefathers, the founders of this country, the early leaders of this country to have the foresight to set it up for us like this. And shame on anybody that isn't willing to stand up and fight to protect the greatest experiment this world has probably ever known.
Yeah. Truth. 100%.
So
Well, we're coming up on an hour, and I don't mean to cut this short, but it's getting past my bedtime, and we actually have a big day tomorrow ahead of us.
That's right.
So I
We
don't know if
will.
we're releasing that information or if we're going to hold on to it.
Yeah, we don't really know what's happening, so we might as well. That's how we do things. We are going to be interviewing Governor Mike Kehoe in his office tomorrow afternoon. I'm very excited about that. You know, I actually interviewed him in a somewhat podcast way when I was doing my executive MBA at Mizzou, and we all had to go out and interview somebody we respected. At the time, he was the lieutenant governor. You know what I like about Mike, you know, as I've known him, but Governor Kehoe, man, that guy didn't get any. He didn't start on third base. You know, he started in North St. Louis with a single mother washing cars on a car lot. Um, he's just worked hard, and he's a good man, and he's a good family man, and I'm I'm really proud to have Mike Kehoe as our governor. Does that mean everything he does is perfect? No. But what politician is perfect? What I trust about him is that his heart is in the right place, that he does care about people of all economic statuses, of all races, of all different creeds, because he's lived with those people and he's worked with those people. And man, you want to talk about a tough job, like trying to please 6 million people. That's a tough job, but he's a hunter, he's a farmer. He you know he's just a good dude. He's just a good person, and I'm excited to dig in about his love of the Missouri outdoors. So it might come out before this, it might come out after this, we don't know, but it should
Yeah.
be a good interview.
I'm looking forward to it too because we have a fun history of me always making an ass out of myself in front of him when he was the lieutenant governor. So we'll do our best. I'll do my best to not spit and sputter all over myself. If I had to
You'll do good, man.
dust
You'll
off
do
the old
good.
suit jacket and have to be in there with my hair slicked back, and you'll see my giant five head with my my
See,
giant
he's the
bald
first
head.
governor. He's the first governor to call into the morning shag.
No, that's true. Yeah, that would be a fun conversation to have with him on that. He was the lieutenant governor at the time,
He
but
was running for
he was
governor.
still running for governor. Yes, and we all knew
Yeah,
he was going to win. But so instead of the mystery bait bucket, speaking of the morning shag, we had a fun conversation this week that I thought would be neat to bring to the show because I was kind of curious. I don't remember if I saw you make a comment on this. So let me ask you, if you were suddenly legally required to carry a warning label, what would yours say? I said mine was
mm,
caution. I will immediately forget your name. I don't.
yeah.
That's one thing that blew me away too when we first met and just hanging out with you is how good you are with remembering people's names. That's always so impressive to me because I can't. Like the harder I try to remember it, the faster it disappears.
Mine might be like caution may explode when running too hot. Like uh, I've gotten a lot better. I mean, it only
You
happened
have.
once on this podcast. But I hope that's what people appreciate about us is the fact that, we don't have any big corporate sponsors. You don't see us wearing like corporate t-shirts for this company this year and that company next year. We've been fortunate to have a few good sponsors along the way, and we're really thankful for them. But anybody that thinks we're making money on this, like, we're not. We're just doing it because we love it and we have fun. We get some fishing trips out of it, and we get enough to cover our expenses basically, but this is a passion project for us, and we've talked about stopping, and people tell us they won't be our friends anymore if we stop. So I think we're still in it for the long haul, and hopefully we can evolve a little bit. I do believe like we were early to this, and I'll take some credit for telling you like I have a vision for where podcasts are going to go. And I don't know, being a radio guy and I get it because I'm a writer, and I've written for newspapers for going on 20 years. Well, almost all those newspapers are gone, and now the biggest writers in the world like Matt Taibbi and these guys, they're bloggers. They write for themselves on Substack. And you being a traditional radio guy, it was probably a little of a downgrade to do this like podcast. It's like that's for amateurs. I'm a professional. And I get it because that's how us writers felt about blogs. And now it's evolved to where the podcasts are so common and so popular. Same thing with blogs. But there's some really good aspects to that too, because it does give voices to those that otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity. And some of those people have been able to like come in later in the game, or a few of them that maybe even started when we did. They've kind of set the bar by taking this to video and doing it at a whole nother level. We've maintained our day jobs and our families and all the shit that we went through. And hopefully in the near future, we'll continue to evolve and maybe we'll get to having a studio, but we live an hour apart and it's hard to get together anymore on a weekly basis. But I don't know.
Yep.
We'll see where it goes.
I think the doing it online like this and then having the video go up to YouTube. I mean, it's if you haven't subscribed, please do. Um, Driftwood Outdoors TV on YouTube. But I mean, if you look at the analytics, I know it's can be a little disheartening when you look at views and stuff like that. But we're steadily growing. We're actually very new on YouTube and probably a little late to that party, but we'll get there. We're growing, and
Yeah.
the audio numbers are still solid. People are out there still listening to us and
Oh
still
yeah.
still listening to our rants and raves and us getting red in the face and getting frustrated with everyone. So
Yeah, I think our audio listens are still respectable and good, and that means we got to say thank you to
yeah,
a lot of people. Like it is weird, dude. Like I'll say this, I went to a gentleman's house yesterday, a very very nice man who is in the process of donating a piece of property to Retrieving Freedom. Um, and I walked up to his house, knocked on the door, and he said, "How's your leg?" And I was like, "I haven't talked to this guy in 2 months." And he's like, he knew all these things about me. He's like, "Oh, I'm so excited for your daughter to be doing this," and I'm like, "Damn, dude, it's kind of weird that you like put it out there into the universe, and some people pay attention, and
people are
um,
listening.
yeah, that's great. It's also a little strange, but it's super cool that people care, and if we can do anything to help people come to know the outdoors, you know, we we're not, giving away like coordinates on where to go catch a fish, but we're giving you some pretty good advice on where to go fishing and who to go fishing with. I mean, that's something I'm proud of is how many of our fishing guide friends are like, dude, you guys have sent me a lot of clients. So we've lifted some people up along the way, and I think that's special and we can feel good about it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just such a small world too of Cooper when he was little and his first time out here saying he wanted to go to St. Louis because there was a guy at a bakery that he followed on TikTok by the name of Derek Baker. He has Down syndrome,
Oh yeah,
super
yeah.
popular. And then
Yeah.
I'm on the river we no longer speak of, and this guy is like, "Oh, dude, you're Shags. Dude, I love your podcast and all this." And he tells me his name, and he's like, I got a son that does some stuff on social media and is kind of popular and kind of downplays it. And I asked, like, oh, what's his name? They're like, all right, cool. I have to look him up. Go to find out he is the kid that Cooper wanted to go meet. So
Yeah.
when they come out here for the wedding, I got to reach out to Eric, the dad, to set up a time to where Cooper can meet Derek because they've been so nice. They send Cooper Baker banter merch and everything for his birthdays and send him messages around the holidays. They've been so cool. And I would have never met him if it weren't for this podcast. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to actually knock him out of the raft a couple years ago either. First person that's only been knocked out of the raft.
Have you had your raft in the water this year?
No,
Me neither, man. What are we doing? What are we
dude.
doing?
We were just looking at our calendars because we owe one guy a fishing trip to go walleye fishing with Chris Nelson. And I was like, I don't have a weekend available for 2 months. Like, I just don't. And again, we're talking about how busy we are. We just can't get together and do stuff, not even fun stuff anymore.
I know, man. I mean, it's gotten crazy how busy we are. But that's the stage of life we're in, I
We'll
guess.
figure it out. We'll get
We
there. Look
will.
at us sitting here and bitching and moaning about being successful and just being too busy all the time.
Yeah. I'll say this, man, we're lucky. We're
Yes.
blessed. We got good friends. You had a health scare. I've been through some shit. Well, here we are, still standing, man, and
Well,
surrounded by incredible people and a lot of love, and um, yeah, just grateful and blessed for sure.
100%. And I appreciate that both of us, the older we've gotten, we've like learned from our mistakes and are trying to do better, even with my health and you being sober and like trying to, all right, enough is enough. I don't want that to happen again. And like trying to eat healthier, going to the gym, exercising, for me, cutting out all the nicotine and the heavy drinking and all that. And so, yeah, here's the 300 more, right?
That's right. That's right. We'll have to get somebody really cool on for the 600th episode. So
Gear review coming up next. Brandon, into the podcast, the beginning of a gear review. What are you reviewing for us today?
I am going to say thank you to the Lake of the Ozarks State Park Marina for donating this to the Conservation Federation's auction. You know, a lot of these nonprofits, I've worked for Conservation Federation, still love and support the organization. It takes the generosity of donors. They donated that 4 hour pontoon boat ride on Lake of the Ozarks, or pontoon boat rental. I bought it for my daughter's birthday. I added a couple hours to it, and this weekend I'll be the sober chauffeur on a pontoon boat full of 20 and 21-year-old college kids on Lake of the Ozarks. So, um, if you're looking for something to do this summer, if you're heading down to Lake of the Ozarks, maybe rent a boat from the state park marina there, Lake of the Ozarks State Park, and thank them for their support of conservation, and specifically the Conservation Federation of Missouri. So grateful for that donation and looking forward to a good time. Hard to believe my little girl Bailey Lou is going to be 20 years old tomorrow.
That's
So
wild.
I
Well,
know.
happy belated birthday, because this is going to come out afterwards.
Yeah.
For mine, it is my fancy Flytex leg sleeve that I've been wearing knee braces because I have like a minor meniscus tear in my knee, just because I'm old apparently, and it happens. And I was wearing like little knee braces and stuff like that for a while, and it just didn't seem to be helping. And I'm not going to lie, I fell for a Facebook ad and clicked on it and was like reading all the comments and all the reviews. And this thing is legit. I mean, it goes all.
It wasn't about Godfather 4, was it?
No, I didn't get fooled by the internet. That this thing's awesome though. So like when I'm mowing the lawn or working out, or even this weekend when I'm down fishing, I'll wear it, and it just supports my knee. It doesn't swell up afterwards, and it's so much better than just them little knee braces that you get at the store, because those slip and slide. These things stay on and they compress everything. My knee went from being all swollen to now it's all the way down to being back to normal. I can't say enough good things about that, man. It was
Mm.
legit, and I'm glad I clicked on that Facebook ad.
Well, if anybody's wondering where my books are on this podcast, I had a leak in the wall. So after putting that whole office together and building those bookshelves, I had to move 1,000 books again to pull everything off the wall. I got my office emptied out. I'm having PTSD from all my stuff being back out in the garage. So when you build your new home, make sure you get your shower sealed properly. Uh, yeah,
It didn't
there's
ruin any of the books, did it?
no, it was on the floor, thankfully, but and it was just like a trickle, but it's coming out every day, and it was squashing up through the vinyl planking. So, there's some real advantages to using Amish builders, but they do not come with a warranty. So, there we go. So, Big Bill will be in town soon. We'll get it fixed, and I'll be back in front of my beloved book soon. I guess we'll see you down the trail. Another 100 episodes, another 200 episodes, 300 episodes. We're
Let's
super grateful for everyone that listens. Thank you.
let's do it. Thank you very much. Let's